Like many small towns across the country, Gerald, Missouri was struggling with a tiny police force and a big drug problem. Then a man known as Sergeant Bill showed up. Bill Jakob flashed a badge and announced his credentials, an undercover federal agent sent to clean up the town in a county with one of the highest number of methamphetamine labs in the country. He quickly helped police round up dozens of suspects and was welcomed like a conquering hero. And as we first reported last fall, it all seemed just a little too good to be true.
I didn't just wake up one morning and decide I was Batman or Superman. I found myself in Gerald.
Bill Jakob, driving his own undercover police car, arrived early last year in Gerald, Missouri, a rural town so small there's only one traffic light for its 1,200 residents.
I woke up every day with the intention of, hey, I'm really doing some great things here. And I fed off of it, and I enjoyed it. And I slept good at night. I really did. I thought, man, I'm putting drug dealers out of business.
What was it like making these arrests for you? Was it a rush?
There was an adrenaline rush, but that isn't really the thing that I focused on. The most was just every bust. It was a good bust.
No one shared that sentiment more than Ryan McCrary, the new police chief who was struggling to control a growing drug problem with only 4 cops. Now he had a big-time agent with the Multi-jurisdictional Narcotics task force doing surveillance around the town and rounding up suspects.
Once everything started unfolding, he was the drug expert pretty much from the task force.
Did that make you feel empowered that you had all the resources of the federal government behind you?
It felt pretty good to actually have some backup finally.
In 2 months, Bill Jakob and the Gerald police arrested about 20 people. And Jakob says more often than not, he got them to confess. Mayor Otis Schulte told us the town was grateful.
A lot of people in town were. They thought things are getting done. We got some help. I mean, a small town, we just don't have the resource. We had 1 police officer on at a shift.
I was very effective. I think part of it was the fact that they were out of their comfort zone. If you're used to dealing with a 3-man or 4-man police department out in the middle of nowhere in Gerald, Missouri, and all of a sudden you find yourself across the desk from a federal officer, that's intimidating.
Because you were a Fed?
Yes.
Not so fast. Bill Jakob wasn't a Fed, had never been a Fed. He wasn't even a certified cop. Bankrupt and unemployed, the closest he'd ever come to the feds was when he worked as a security guard in the parking lot of the Federal Reserve Bank in St. Louis. But he was creative, and he concocted an elaborate scheme to con the entire town of Gerald into believing he was an agent working with a federal task force. What was the name of the task force that you told the police chief you worked for?
Multi-jurisdictional Narcotics task force.
How did you come up with that?
Actually, it sounded good. I've heard that it was used in a movie.
I'm attached to a multi-jurisdictional federal task force.
The movie was Beverly Hills Cop 2.
I've seen that movie. Maybe I had it subconsciously in the back of my head.
I understand you had an official-looking badge, a 6-point star, with the task force name on it. Where did you get that?
From the internet.
From the internet?
From the internet.
And you also had business cards with the Justice Department logo on them.
Yes.
How did you do that?
It's not that hard to make a business card. I had to have these things. I mean, I was becoming this person.
And soon he'd convinced the police chief to formally request his help from the Department of Justice. Bill Jakob gave him a phony fax number and arranged for a female friend to answer the phone. Why did you do it? You weren't getting paid. What was your motivation?
I wanted to fit what they wanted me to be. They wanted my help, and I wanted to help them. And so I thought, hey, if I can become this other person and I can help these people, who am I hurting?
Even if it was against the law?
I was more concerned with the fact that it's against the law to be a drug dealer than it was to be against the law to pretend to be a cop.
Everything just fell together perfectly for his little scheme to work,
Police Chief Ryan McCrary, who says he trusted Bill Jakob, doesn't buy his explanation that he was just trying to help. He thinks he wanted to feel important and powerful. Soon witnesses say Sergeant Bill was kicking in doors, brandishing a shotgun, and making arrests.
And he had information on things and people that we didn't have.
How do you think he got that?
To this day, I have no idea. I mean, he was on the phone constantly. We don't know who he was talking to.
McCrary now believes Bill Jakob actually made up evidence, like wiretaps and federal informants, something Jakob now denies. But police say those claims bolstered their case against one suspect, Tyson Williams.
Threw me down on the ground. They had their assault rifles and their pistols to my head. They told me that if I moved, they'd blow my brains out, that they had a lot of evidence against me.
Tyson was taken to the tiny police station.
This is the Gerald Police Department, so this is the scene of the crime, so to speak.
With no jail cell, it was soon overrun with suspects, some handcuffed to this bench. Bill Jakob, who told us he did everything by the book, conducted his interrogations in the mayor's office.
Did he or anyone else read you your rights?
No individual read me my rights.
Did you ask them if you could call your lawyer?
Yes, numerous times.
What did they say?
No, that I couldn't. I asked to call my father too, and they wouldn't let me do that.
What if the suspect said, I'd like to have a lawyer present?
Fine, I'm done talking to you.
You'd allow a lawyer to be called?
No.
Why?
You have the right to an attorney present while I'm questioning you. I'm done questioning you.
Would you always have a search warrant when you went into somebody's home?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
One was we walked to a guy's house, pulled into his driveway. He runs out the front door carrying a bucket full of marijuana and pipes, yells cops, turns around and runs back into the house. I don't think you have to have a warrant to go back in the house after him.
I think you do.
Well, maybe you do. I'm not a cop.
Did you ever see him do anything at all that was against police procedure?
Well, I can't say that for sure because their procedure and our procedure would be two different things.
But some of this stuff, it seems to me, is pretty basic. I mean, you're saying he got search warrants, read people their rights, did everything by the book?
The search warrants, he said he got, he was doing all that over the phone.
In retrospect, do you feel as if you might have abdicated a little too much responsibility and power to him?
Probably so.
Eventually, Bill Jakob, perhaps fearing he'd be found out, decided to take matters into his own hands. He told police he was taking Tyson Williams to a federal holding cell for further questioning.
So, Bill Jakob puts you in his car.
Correct.
What does he tell you?
That he's going to take me to a federal holdover. Then, as the conversation went on, he turned around and took me to my girlfriend's house. Told me to call him twice a week and not to go outside, not even to check the mail.
A few weeks later, the story of Bill Jakob, federal agent, began to unravel. An enterprising reporter with a local paper named Linda Trest did something no one else had done, a background check. 2 months after he joined forces with the Gerald Police, the real FBI arrested Bill Jakob, and his cover was blown. It turns out he had a long history of being a con man.
This isn't the first time that you've lied about something. You've pretended to be an Army veteran, injured in Iraq. Do you have a problem with telling the truth?
I am an Army veteran.
Were you in Iraq?
No.
Did you tell people you were in Iraq?
Yes, I have.
Why?
I lied on a resume.
Why?
Same reason anybody lies on a resume. I wanted a job.
So, this isn't the first time you've pretended to be or to do something you aren't or haven't done.
It's not like I can't tell the truth. It's not like I've lied to everybody I've ever met. I told a few lies in my life. And I told one big one.
Now the town of Gerald is paying the price. The police chief and 2 other officers were fired. And because of Jakob's involvement, no one he arrested has been charged with a crime. Instead, many of them are suing the town for tens of millions of dollars for violating their civil rights. One of them is Michael Holland, who Bill Jakob told us he got to confess.
Michael, according to the police report, a pound of marijuana was seized from your car.
There was nothing in my car. Nothing.
But this is a pretty lengthy confession.
I don't know. I mean, that's crazy. I don't know how that came about.
Is this your handwriting?
It's my handwriting. But
some people watching this will see you as someone who was caught dealing drugs and who is not only getting away with it, but who's trying to benefit from that very crime by suing the city for a lot of money. What would you say to that?
I have no idea. I mean, it's not about the money, really. I just want him to get what he deserves.
Bill Jakob pled guilty to 23 counts against him, including impersonating a federal officer. He was sentenced in December to 5 years in prison. And while it may be tempting to believe his version of the story, that he was only trying to do some good in the town of Gerald, remember, Bill Jakob is a master of deception.
For me, it wasn't about trying to pull something over on somebody. I mean, I'm not stupid. I knew what I was doing. I knew I wasn't a cop. I knew I wasn't a fed. I knew what I was doing wasn't legal. But, you know, it isn't like I was out robbing people. It isn't like I was out beating people. It isn't like I was arresting drug dealers.
Yeah, but
I didn't say it was smart.
People can't just walk off the street,
No, they can't.
have a fake federal badge, have fake business cards.
No, they can't. And I hope anybody out there that's ever thought about doing this looks at me now. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. I'm not ashamed of the fact that I cleaned up a town. I'm going to prison. I am going to prison for arresting drug dealers that aren't going to prison.
That's not why you're going to prison.
But that's all I did.